everybody, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about what to be doing after the lane phase as an ADC. A lot of my videos, as you can see, have been really focused on laning, how to get those leads inside of lane, but now we're also going to be talking about how to take those leads and help propel them into the mid game, into the late game. I'm going to be showing you my own gameplay inside of Master Tier as an ADC, and we're going to be talking about a number of macro examples, what to do, what not to do after the lane phase. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So in this first example, I'm playing Lucian, and I'll be playing Lucian into the Vayne, and essentially what's happening here is I ended up getting a lead into the Vayne, and I ended up getting a crash off, and now the wave is actually just bouncing back into me here. So I'm letting the lane just return into me. I'm just last hitting, and as you can see now, Vayne is going into mid lane because she's well aware that she can't play the lane right now. Now, you can do one of two things, and I think the reason this ended up happening is because the mid laner ended up dying, and then Senna covered mid lane or something, and then Senna was out of the lane, and then Vayne couldn't really do anything in the lane either. But you can do one of two things here as an ADC, and it really just depends on how your jungler is routing. Now, if your jungler is here, let's say he's routing down, yeah, you can perhaps crash this incoming wave that I'm freezing, and then try to get a return on it. Now, let's say, for example, that Vayne is actually already in the lane here. What you can do is you can wait for your jungler to arrive. Your jungler will then come on the next coming wave, which is right here. And now what you guys want to do is you want to crash essentially this wave and this wave into the tower. Now, if your jungler can't do that, let's say he's pathing to the opposite side of the map, or maybe he just is really tilted or whatever, then an option to go mid lane is also possible, right? So if you're not able to play the lane out at all, now in this case the Vayne actually made a misplay, right? And the reason she's making a misplay at this point is because she's well aware, well, maybe she doesn't know at the time, but Lee Sin is not pathing down, which means that Teemo and Senna are coming down, and they're going to help get the crash off in bottom lane. Now, Vayne is actually moving into mid lane. This is a second thing you can do in the lane, but this is only really good if you don't have any support in the crash, which means that now or I guess Vayne in this case will end up moving into mid lane. You'll end up crashing mid wave, and then you'll try to harass the enemy laner under the tower or something, right? However, the problem with that is you're sharing XP with your mid laner, but you're really just kind of bluffing when you do this, because you're in hopes that, oh, because let's say that if Lucian sees Vayne in mid lane, that he'll be compelled to push. However, the most logical thing here to do is let your mid laner just let the enemy ADC just duo mid with the mid laner at that point, and then don't push the lane back because they're still sharing XP. Now, what could have actually happened here is if Lee Sin didn't respond. Now in high MMR, what's going to end up happening is if a freeze is happening here on our side, Vayne will come in, Senna will come in, Teemo will come in. Maybe even Lee Sin shows to defend the freeze, but if Lee Sin is not here to defend the freeze, then 3 players versus 2 players need to make sure the wave is crashed into the tower to get a buffer and then a return. In this case, unfortunately, Vayne wasn't able to do that, and she ended up going mid lane with Kled. Now, I see the fact that she's mid lane, and I still have a pretty good freeze. Now, most ADCs in this case will be like, oh, I should push because she's doing something on the map. But the reality of the situation is she's not actually doing anything, and she's just sharing XP with her laner, and she's losing economy passively. Which means that all I have to do now is just not push. Now, if I push the lane, this gives her a reason to come down. I don't care if she comes down or not. I don't care if she lanes with mid laner forever, right? Because at the end of the day, my mid laner is still getting ahead, considering it's a 2 versus 1 in the XP differentiation, right? So now here, I'm just going to continue to slow push the wave. I continue to do this, and then, of course, we end up taking eventually this breaks because I end up having to go and join my laners. So the wave ends up getting crashed in, and then it returns in. But this is just an example of when you are frozen. If your jungler is routing down, you need to spam ping him to assist you to crash the wave. If that's not possible, then perhaps you can lane swap, but if you lane swap, then the only reason you're really lane swapping is in hopes that the enemy ADC pulls the trigger and then crashes the wave back, because maybe he assumes that you're doing stuff around the map, which really you're not. You're just kind of bluffing to make sure he crashes the wave back. But the higher level you go and the more experienced ADCs you're going to meet, the more awkward the second situation can end up becoming, where even if you end up going mid lane and you lane swap for a little bit, or not lane swap, but just like duo lane with your mid laner for the time being, in hopes to get the return on the wave in bottom lane, it might not actually happen, right? Higher rank you go, what's going to end up happening here is even above Master Tier, you might even see like the jungler coming in and then the ADC and the support just trying to play for the freeze at that point. Okay, so this has been essentially the idea of what to do when you are getting frozen on, what to do when you are freezing, and how someone can respond to that. So in this next example, we're going to be taking a look at what to do after taking mid inhibitor and why taking mid inhibitor so early in the game could actually be quite poor. At the moment now, the game timer is around, I would say, anywhere between 15 to maybe 18 to 19 minutes in, and we just ended up taking the mid tower tier 1. Kled ended up just trying to run at me. Maybe he thought he could kill me. We end up getting the return kill onto Kled, and then we go ahead and push down straight mid. And now, again, the game timer is around like maybe 17 minutes, as I said. But now notice what ends up happening after we take the mid inhibitor. Now, the reason taking mid inhibitor is really, really bad so early inside of the game is because now as the super minions end up spawning, there's no way that we have any red waves coming into us to farm, which means that the enemy laners, or the enemy team, is consistently getting economy as long and like as the game progresses, because they're just getting super minion wave after super minion wave. Now, unfortunately, at 15 minutes in, at 16 minutes in, at 17 minutes inside of the game, our itemizations are not at the point where we can just shred down objectives that quickly, which means that accelerating the game this fast will actually put us quite behind, because now we're losing a full economy inside of a lane that's completely dark. You can do this after like 25, 26 minutes, because then at that point items are actually built where you can just crash, you can shred the Nash. You can kill the objectives, well, maybe not shred, but you can kill it a little bit faster than you originally would have at 15 minutes. And then you could also start killing towers, and you can actually afford to play a little bit faster paced. But when you're so early inside of the game, taking mid inhibitor actually just completely, it can actually really hurt you overall. So now notice what ends up happening. After mid gets taken out, I end up recalling here, which is all fine. And then I end up running to top lane, because as you can see, my Shen is going bottom lane. Now I don't know why my Shen didn't go top lane. This is another problem, right? Now, one thing you should do here is, now, first what you want to do is, what objective is up? Nash is up in about maybe 30 seconds. Dragon will, now you guys don't see the timer, but Dragon will be spawning very, very soon as well. Now, the problem with this is I want to go top lane if Dragon isn't up. If Dragon is like 1 minute 30 seconds away, sure, you can go top lane, have your Lee Sin hover you, crash the wave, and then go down and move down to the bottom side of the map. Now, if Dragon's at like a 45-second timer, you can't really afford to go top lane because you're going to miss the Dragon fight. Now, the problem with this is, if your top laner has TP, or it's Shen in this case, what you should actually have Shen do is go top lane, so that you can go play side lane down and bottom, so you can be next to the objective that actually matters. Now let's say that Dragon isn't up, and then Baron is the only objective up. At that point, it's completely fine for Shen to go down, and you to go topside, so now that you can eat topside waves, right? Remember, as you're eating waves, you want to be aware that you have someone hovering you, and as you enter deeper and deeper into the enemy's territory, you want to make sure that you actually have support, and that you can crash the wave immediately. One thing you can also do when you're trying to get crashes off on the wave, and this is a little bit irrelevant of the current screen, is let's say I'm over here. Let's say that this is wave 1. Now, if I don't want to play wave 2 all the way here, I can actually slow push wave 1, build wave 2, and then crash all of wave 1 and 2 into the enemy tower. And what that'll allow me to do is it allows me to play the lane in this like sweet spot here for a much longer time, so that I'm not like deep inside of enemy territory to potentially get ganked by the enemy, right? Because again, they do have a Kled, and in your games, perhaps even if there's an assassin in the game, you want to make sure you're playing the lane as close to your area as possible. In this case, building waves, having bigger waves, and then simply crashing both waves at the same time allows you to do that. Now, as you can see, I end up taking red buff and going mid, but notice what's happening here. I don't have a lane to farm, because now consistently, like, I'm just losing income in mid lane, because Senna and Vayne are just going to keep getting waves, and there's nothing I can really do. So I end up going here. We know that we can't just do Nash here. We end up going topside for this random pick. We end up killing him. Mordekaiser tries to get us, but can't find anything. And then here we're just kind of waiting to do the Dragon, or the Nash here in this case, okay? We end up taking Nasher. Again, it's a little bit awkward. Now here, same concept. It's a little bit weird, where because we don't have mid tower, I want waves. Now I haven't actually farmed in the last like 2.5, 3 minutes. I haven't gotten any waves. And this is a byproduct of us accelerating the game so fast by taking mid tower. Now here, if I have the mid wave, I can easily farm the mid wave. Again, you want to slow push the wave around here, build as many waves as possible, crash it, and then move down so that you're not so deep inside of the enemy's territory. Alternatively, if you're playing in a much like coordinated settings, you could also freeze mid lane, and this also depends on like champion scaling and a lot of other things as well. But in this case, in solo queue, most of the time, you know, we're just shoving lanes out. We don't really care about freezes and all that stuff. I end up taking blue buff here, and now I can't go bottom lane because look at the bottom wave. It's actually pushing out. Always be aware of if the lane is pushing out or pushing in when you're looking to catch waves. Catching waves is one of the most important concepts as an ADC. What you want to do is you want to catch waves relative to the objective that you want to play around. Always when you play around something, it must be around an objective or a reasoning. An objective could be a tower, an objective could be one of the neutral objectives, and the waves of course facilitate and revolve around those. Now here you can see that there is a surplus of a cannon minion, a Baron enhanced minion temporarily, a few casters, and essentially it's pushing into the opponent team. Now I can't go bot lane, because by the time I'm in bot lane and farming, this wave is already being here. I don't want to play the lane so deep. I want to play somewhere safe, where I can safely get all the minions. Now looking at top lane, I see that there is a XS3 spell melees, and the next wave is coming into us. Now Vayne can't really keep shoving this wave in, but I do have a top wave that I could actually go ahead and farm, and it's not in a way where I'm going to be so like pushed up, where I could get like ganked. So I go top lane. Now the problem with this is I haven't farmed in a while, and I'm kind of on edge. Like I'm like really like, holy man, like I really need waves. It's so bad because I'm falling behind. Vayne is getting free XP, and I really just want to get waves. Now, when you play like this and you accelerate the game so fast, you could actually get behind as an ADC because of how much income the Vayne is collecting on either the side waves or the dark lane that you ended up just breaking, right? Now, in this case, I'm getting spam pinged by my team to go straight into Dragon, which is really obnoxious, and so I'm like, okay, you know what, whatever, I don't want to tilt them, let me just go bottom lane, whatever. But as you can see here, I am just struggling. So I end up eating a wave, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to farm the next wave either because, you know, again, I was only able to get one wave within maybe like 3.5 minutes of playing. And this is just one of the reasons why taking mid inhibitor so early into the game and accelerating the game so quickly and playing it so fast could actually be a very detrimental thing to your overall economy. Again, last little thing that I want to talk about before I end off this little segment is always look, please just excuse my ulti there, I actually really trolled that team fight. The last little thing I want to tell you is always look for how to increase your economy the best way possible. Finally, lastly, just I can't emphasize enough how important it is to make sure that you're catching waves. A lot of players, especially below Master and Grandmaster Challenger, they end up farming really well inside of the lane phase. They end up getting like 80-90 CS per minute for like 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes comes along, 20 minutes comes along, and they just completely forget how to farm. And this is a lot to do with you guys just not being aware of when to side lane. Again, in lower MMR, always be aware of, hey, you know, sometimes your laners, sometimes your teammates will not allow you to side lane. Sometimes they'll put you on a side lane against like an assassin. Sometimes they won't, you know, they'll catch waves in lanes that otherwise they shouldn't be. And it's your job to track that. It's your job to be aware of that. Again, with these videos, my hopes in this channel is to make you guys as aware as possible when you are playing the mid game. Again, taking those leads inside of the lane phase, propelling your mid game, propelling your late game, and actually utilizing the economy that we ended up earning. And again, please like and subscribe if you want more content. I will see you guys for the next video. I hope you guys learned something, and good luck on the ladder for next season. Bye.